So because I was active and trying to, keep myself preoccupied, I still ended up getting in trouble. Um, because I had been influenced for drugs, it was really not something that was around. But when I got to the school, some of the people who even teased me were old enough where they had access to certain things. So, pretty much like I would buy maybe some weed from them, and then I think, yeah, I like traded some like Spanish fly, you know, uh, like sex pills or whatever for something, or at least I paid it. But because I didn't have any money, a lot of times, like my dad that was there, the only way I'd have lunch is like buying a Snickers bar and a Sprite or a Coke or something like that. I did have some lunch every once in a while, but most of the time it was just, like there wasn't much. And then, the problem that I had, because I was in a bad mindset as well, is that, I would go and I would look through like change, right? And try to get as much change. And my dad at that time, he had, some rolled quarters and things like that. So that was really, I never was given money to be like, okay, hey, go do something, get out of here. Um, but even when I didn't have anything for like lunch or something, I made some bad choices, and the bad choices were, taking money or taking um, change, so that way I can use it, and then obviously, buying into things that nobody really needs at all. You don't need to be like on drugs. You don't need alcohol. You don't need really any of that stuff. And I really have never liked cigarettes. I never really liked alcohol because although I've had good experiences, I've also had bad experiences, and the way that it makes me feel, it's just like I'd rather just be sober. But I did uh, smoke a lot of weed, and at the time I really didn't have to worry about doing any of that stuff because of the fact that I was going back and forth to different places. So it wasn't consistent. But because of the involvement that I did, and then who I met when I actually even first went there, um, I made some bad choices. For instance, you know, I actually I was with a group of people between ninth and 10th grade, and it was like, the getting closer to the end of the school year, and some of them said, "Hey, let's go down senior hall, and we're gonna grab the fire extinguisher, and then we're just gonna go and spray all the lockers, right, as like a prank or something." So I was just like kind of hanging around with the crowd, but I was still, you're guilty by association. And so when we went down the hall, the other people actually did that, and they sprayed it all, and it was like definitely a huge like fog cloud and everything. It was pretty intense, but we got caught. There was cameras, and the problem is that I actually never even sprayed anything, but I was guilty by being a part of that group, because I was just so excited to see new people or meet new people, but I didn't realize like what they were really about. And so when that happened, the school buses are already gone, and then next thing you know, I'm the one who's being blamed for it because I'm the new person, right? Or the scapegoat in a way. And so I got in trouble, and that was like, you know, I want to say I was barely there, like less than a few months. So this probably was in between ninth and 10th grade summer. And I remember the officer, Officer Stryker, and he was actually a cool guy. Um, I knew that the situation was bad and I was guilty by association. Um, but after I tried to explain that, hey, I really didn't spray anything, it was more of people's opinions. They put the blame on me, and since I'm new, or you know, I'm the target, at this point, I received punishment. So I got, you know, the officer basically drove me home, and he was talking to me, being like, "Man, what are you doing? Like, you shouldn't be like doing these things. Like, you got to know better, right?" Just some encouragement. He could have been like a lot worse, but I did try to take what he was saying to me to heart. In a way, like, man, this keeps happening to me. I keep getting in those situations again, and the worst part about it was, I'm fairly new. And then next thing you know, I'm getting dropped off by a police officer to my dad. And my dad is super pissed because he's like, what did you do this time again, right? And it wasn't like, okay, at this point we've kind of moved on from like some situations, but a lot of the things that I did just escalated. So at that time, even, my dad, towards the summertime, after, he was still really upset that I got already, caught up with the law and dropped off to him personally at the front door. And, the officer, like, I think I may have kind of explained the situation or something like that, but really there wasn't much to go off of. And however, because of that, I spent pretty much the summer, like, hanging out. I didn't even know that I could go to the school and actually participate during the summer and some of the things that they had. But because I was out there with my dad now, and I had already gotten in trouble, now I'm just kind of hanging around the neighborhood. And there are definitely some bad influences that were there, and most of the time I didn't really associate with them. Up until, well, most people I didn't associate with, but I knew, that there were people who may or may not, and I don't know.